They say the first thing you do when you get married is to buy a house, but we didn't.
In fact, we don't have apartments or full-time jobs.
All we have are 2 backpacks, 2 passports, and one big goal: to chase our dreams.
We knew we wanted more. We just didn't know exactly what. But it's not enough to just believe. You have to prepare. Many people want a safe, secure job. They might not say it with their words, but they prove it with their actions. But playing it safe will never make you great. And we wanted great things for our lives. And now it was time to really push ourselves. Now it was time for a challenge.
However, being in debt wasn't going to get us anywhere. It keeps you in a cage, and it doesn't allow you to go after what you want. And we paid so much in debt every single month that we didn't have anything left over to give generously to others. And Romans 13:8 says, "Let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt of loving one another." Being in debt doesn't just hurt us, it caps our ability to help other people who are hurting.
The solution was easy in principle, but extremely hard to do. We had to get out of debt. Some people have Mount Everest-sized amounts of debt. Ours was $80,000 combined. It'd be nice to wave a magic wand and make it all disappear, but that was not going to happen. It's extremely difficult to get out of car, student loan, and credit card debt all at once. But the best way to climb a mountain is one step at a time.
To get going, we had to get weird, and we had to cut down all of our expenses. And living in South Florida, the biggest expense is rent. But you have to get the nicest place, right? Wrong. You have to get your own apartment when you're an adult, right? Also wrong. Dave Ramsey says that you have to live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. So we did what most people would not want to do. We downsized.
That's not normal, but that's kind of the point. We had to get out of debt. We weren't even dating at the time, but something told us to start living well below our means to break the bondage of debt. Katy lived with her cousin, just renting a room and sleeping in a twin-sized bed. I bounced from room to room in different Airbnbs. We had to live like most Americans wouldn't to get what most Americans want.
We started by putting off what we want now for what we really want later. So we only spent money on the necessities because anything extra would be excess. We all think we need a new car or a new apartment or new clothes, but all of that is extra. What we really need is clothes to wear, food to eat, and a car to get us from point A to point B. And we had so many people tell us, "Oh, you're always going to be in debt. That's the norm." And end up being in your 40s and 50s with manageable debt. That's the norm. The new norm for us meant living below our means, way below our means.
We won't lie to you. It was not so best at first. We worked really hard and felt like we deserved nice things. We deserved to see the fruits of our labor. But it was no one else's fault that we got ourselves into this mess. And no one was going to help us get out of it. We even had to ignore the well-meanings of some family members and friends who were comfortable being in the chains of debt. We stayed in rooms instead of entire apartments, didn't eat out too often, didn't upgrade our cars, and suppressed our desire to travel on a regular basis. We didn't do it perfectly, but we lived within our means. And after we first started dating, we did take a small trip to the American Southwest, as we called it, to the hot air balloon fiesta in New Mexico. We did save up the cash that we needed for this trip, got really cheap flights, and stayed with friends to keep our costs low. We brushed up on Dave Ramsey's debt snowball and agreed that our debt was not a math problem, it was a behavior problem. So we executed the following steps. Step 1, list your debts from smallest to largest regardless of interest rate. Step 2, make minimum payments on all of your debts except the smallest. Step 3, pay as much as possible on your smallest debt. Step 4, repeat until each debt is paid in full.
So we used the momentum and excitement to keep paying off our debt. We went from $80,000 in debt down to zero. We could have done it mathematically and looked at interest rates, but we felt really good getting these little small wins along the way. And now we're debt free.
The success did not come without sacrifice, but victory rarely does. Besides our trip to the hot air balloon fiesta, we did not spend money on big ticket items. That means we didn't go to weddings, concerts, or events. To keep our cars up and running, we had to get new tires, brakes, and even a transmission. And staying in an Airbnb, I can tell you, I had some really interesting stays and roommates over the past few years.
After getting debt-free, we were back on our feet, and we can come up for air knowing that we didn't owe anybody any money. But once you conquer a giant, new challenges seem to find you. And not to harm you, but to see what you've learned during your trials. And so we had a big ticket item, a wedding. Most weddings in America cost about $30,000, and we were wanting to stay frugal and spend less than half than that.
We picked a date out of thin air and decided to get married then. And then we moved it back. We pushed back our wedding a whole 7 months. To not get married when we wanted to, but to get married when we can actually afford it. And then we decided to completely cash flow our wedding. And that's just what we did. Don't get us wrong. We are very blessed with additional gift cards and cash, which helped us in our future savings.
After eliminating our debts and cash flowing our wedding, we were starting our new life together with no chains, no restrictions. And the snowball effect just kept going. So we were saving up, but we didn't know what we were saving for. 2020 taught us that we are not promised tomorrow, to chase after your dreams. And for some people, their dream is to buy a new car or buy a new house. But for us, that dream is to travel. And we knew we wanted to travel sooner rather than later. And nothing is sooner than now. So with the challenge of getting out of debt in the rear view, we needed a new challenge. So we decided that before having kids, we would travel the world out of backpacks. So the research began.
We didn't go full Dave Ramsey and never use credit cards again. Instead, we used them wisely. We got a credit card that offered travel points, and we pay off the balance each month so that we don't rack up interest or fall back into debt.
We kind of gradually fell into being minimalists. We lived out of small spaces, and the trunks of our cars basically became our closets, so we didn't have room for much. So that made us completely okay with the idea of living out of backpacks. And we had fun searching for things that were valuable enough to take with us and what could actually fit into our backpacks. Minimalism is not about depriving yourselves of things. It's about only having the right things.
Obviously, we're going to be on, airplanes or on trains or things like that. So we want to make sure we don't get like a crinked neck or any sort of.
I'll demonstrate.
So yeah, show them. It's kind of like when you are on an airplane and they're like, yeah, well, you put this around your vest and then you kind of blow into it, or like a boat. So it seems kind of like a life protector, but it's for your neck protector.
Which I have a bad neck, so maybe I'll just sleep with this all the time. Can I use this as my pillow?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've actually tried it on like a different neck pillow. You can really like sleep on here, not too bad. It actually does give your neck support even if you don't use it properly. So we each got one of these. What happened?
You missed it. I'll just go back and show you.
Tell me in the comments what the heck just happened.
We have all the physical items we need. We're debt-free and we've saved quite a bit for our journey. But there's one thing left to do. It took a lot of faith, but you can't travel the world and fully experience it with full-time jobs.
So what just happened?
So I just resigned and gave my 2 weeks.
That's a huge step.
It is.
How do you feel?
So it's definitely hard because I've been at that job for 7 years and it's very much, like a family. And so I'm definitely going to miss the people, but that means also it's one step closer to our world travel. So I'm excited about that. Still processing it, but excited.
It's done.
What'd you do?
Just resigned from my job.
How do you feel?
Feel good. I mean, even when you have everything in place, even when your job could be a little bit better, it's still like this awkward conversation, right? Because you do feel like you're giving up. You do feel like maybe you could do more. Like, even though you know that's not the truth, but yeah, it's official, and I'm super excited.
This is it. This is for real. We have no apartment lease and no longer have full-time jobs, but we do have one-way international plane tickets purchased. There's no going back now. What could possibly be next?
Hey.
Hi! This water is beautiful.
And we did it, ladies and gentlemen. We rode in a Lada. Welcome to Zanzibar.
This is where you're supposed to stay. This view is as stunning as me.
This view is as stunning as me.
No!